Lynn Spaulding was a 57-year-old woman from San Francisco. On September 19, 2013, she was admitted to the hospital for an infection. On September 21st, she went missing from her room just 15 minutes after the previous bed check by staff. The hospital was searched, and staff were unsuccessful in locating the woman. She was listed as a missing person by authorities, and friends hung flyers in the neighborhood in an effort to locate her. Days went by with no leads and no new information. It seemed as if Lynn had simply vanished off the face of the earth. A few weeks later, an employee in the hospital entered an exterior stairwell on the 4th floor around 10 a.m. The stairwell was part of the fire escape system, so it was not used daily and not many staff entered it. It was there that a body was discovered by the employee. It was the body of Lynn Spaulding. It's still unknown how long she had been inside the stairwell, or how she managed to get inside it without anyone noticing. In 2007, a man who was heavily intoxicated admitted himself into the Yan Chai Hospital in Hong Kong after injuring his leg. The 29-year-old man only stayed a short time before leaving in a hurry and making his way back home. In the nearby lab inside the hospital, lab technicians had completed a blood draw on a woman and were waiting to begin tests when they noticed that the 3 tubes of freshly drawn blood were missing. The facility was equipped with a surveillance camera system, and a review of the footage revealed something deeply disturbing. The man had wandered over into the lab and taken the vials from the counter before making his way to the hospital's lobby. It was there that he opened the 3 vials and drank their contents before discarding the empty vials into the trash. The man was later arrested at his home. January 2014, a 30-year-old man named John Verrier went to the ER of the St. Barnabas Hospital in the Bronx. He was seeking medical treatment for a rash. He gave his name to the receptionist and was asked to wait until called. He then sat down in the waiting room and patiently waited his turn. At some point, John fell asleep and ended up missing his name being called. At this point, he had already been in the waiting room for over 2.5 hours. Over the next 3 hours, his name was called 2 more times with no response. It was around 3:30 a.m. when a hospital security worker woke John up, and he immediately stood up and began walking around the waiting room. This was also verified by surveillance footage of the waiting room. At this point, John had already missed his turn to see the doctor 3 times, and by this point, since it had been a very busy night, it meant that John would need to wait a bit longer to see someone about his condition. He sat back down in the lobby and fell back asleep. Around 6:40 a.m., hospital security went over to wake him up again. However, John was not asleep. At some point, after he last sat down, John Verrier died, his body still hunched over in the same position he fell asleep in.